Welcome to the Jamal Thomas Show. Typically, it's the morning show, but if anybody that was around when I was having a conversation with Dr. Wilmer Leon, you could see effectively it just died. And it died in this kind of dramatic moment where Dr. Wilmer was going into some heavy stuff. I'm back, and we're going to do these interviews separately. Jim has been kind enough to wait for me to come back. He has my deepest apologies, considering how long this has taken and how long this has been. But I deeply appreciate it from coming on. And just for the audience, Jim Kavanaugh, he is left socialist writer whose analysis and work can be found at thepolemicist.net, Counterpunch, other outlets. Jim, welcome to the show, man. Thank you. Or Dr. Kavanaugh, I should say. I saw the doctor. I didn't realize first.
By the way, best place to get me is at my Substack, Jim Kavanaugh's Substack. Polemicist.net is kind of a legacy website.
Jim Kavanaugh's Substack. Okay. Now, I want to talk about Yemen, but there's a story that you wrote that I really want to get to first called Collapse. Fantastic article. Fantastic article. And just so the audience can see it for themselves, this is it. I saw this, I think it was either last night or this morning, went through it, and I cannot agree with you more. I cannot agree with you more. There are some people on this channel who has mistaken perception that Donald Trump is somehow fighting for the working man in the stuff that he's, thank you. Yeah, right. And from my point of view, and as I was making the argument this morning and having the conversation with Dr. Wilmer Leon, that's not what's happening. This is a collapse. Like we went into a military conflict that was a test of strength in Ukraine and lost. That's a big deal. That's not trivial, right? All of the might of NATO, the United States was effectively directing events, and we lost. We're doing something very similar to this, from my point of view, and I want to get your take in an economic sense with China. And China has accepted the challenge. And not just accepted the challenge. If you're looking at their markets, China growth is like at 5.4% in this quarter. The US stock market is collapsing. They're expecting zero growth. The dollar has depreciated 8.5%. The tariffs that Donald Trump is putting on, including, by the way, 25% on pharmaceuticals, which means we're paying, or going to have to pay 25% more or whatever that price is on top of whatever we currently pay. Everything has effectively gone up. And so we're looking at a recession and prices going higher on top of the idea of that recession. And even as the market collapsed, it took the treasuries where people weren't buying them, and yet they were selling them, to be the thing that finally got Trump to say, okay, maybe this is too much. He had to back up, which means he didn't have the might to do what he wanted to do. Like, I find all of the stuff to be canary in the coal mine that we may not see, like really get until we look back in the mirror. I want you to go into your article just to explain the main thesis of the argument to the public. And you had a line in there, something like, Trump is the best face for this collapse, like for a dying empire. That's the guy that you want.
Appropriate villain for this.
Yeah, right. That's what it was. Yeah. Please go into it. That's a long intro, but I just want to get a kind of context to our reality, our world right now that we're effectively living in. Please go into it. And thank you again for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Well, look, what I'm trying to say is there's been problems developing in the United States into military, political, and economic relations to the rest of the world for a long time, for decades. Trump represents the worst and most blatant of certain kinds of policies that have been under the surface for a long time and are there. And he's just, he's stating them in the crudest and most vulgar way possible, and the nastiest way possible. Look, European countries have been lapdogs of the United States, but for decades, this is a collegial relationship. We are in this together. We're going to have a conference. We're going to talk to you about it. But we wanted to construct the world in this neoliberal globalist order, so we're now going to construct the world. You're actually doing what we wanted you to do, and you're going to start demolishing the social democracy social democratic policies in your own countries, blah, 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 blah. So in other words, we were arranging the world because we had the power to do it, especially the demise of the Soviet Union. And we took that power militarily. We want to attack someone, we're going to attack someone. We want to arrange the world as a globalized neoliberal order. We're going to do that. Okay. So Trump is coming in and saying, we're the big dog. We're not. This isn't collegial. We're telling you what to do. We don't want that neoliberal globalization anymore. We want a protectionist capitalist order. And that's what we're going to do. And tough luck. And, you know, we told you to get involved in Ukraine and you got involved with us. But, you know, now we don't want to be involved. I mean, I don't quite know what he's going to do about that. I don't think he's made up his mind. But essentially, he's telling the Europeans, look, we're treating you like the dogs you always were, but we didn't. Yeah. You weren't. It's because I have a different attitude towards things. And now you're going to have to live in the world that I'm dictating. The problem is, since the demise of the Soviet Union, everybody was, oh, it's the end of history. Francis Fukuyama, the end of history. Not the end of history. Guess what? For 20 years, 30 years, the United States could do what it wanted in the world, paying no attention to what Russia cared about, what China cared about, didn't have to think about it at all. Okay. We can go, we have the military power, we have the economic power. That's not the case anymore. Those countries have grown up. We're not the biggest kid on the block. The kids have grown up and they have a lot more power. And you can't bully these kids in the schoolyard anymore. And they're just fighting back. So you're trying to do things now. The United States has been weakening economically and politically, and relatively speaking, militarily. It's very strong militarily, but other military powers have arisen that can stand up to it, at least. And, you know, I said this in way back with the Skripals, you know, when they started going after Russia and Syria, I said, look, this is the American neocons have this idea that they overestimate their own strength and underestimate the strength of Russia. That was 6-7 years ago. Now it's a different story altogether, especially economically. So you want to remake the world. First of all, his ideas about economic ideas about what to do are really just fundamentally atavistic. You know, it's 19th century capitalism that we got over the mid 20th century because of the depression, because it created a depression. And he's creating the same, not only the tariffs, but Elon Musk is throwing millions of people out of work.
Yeah.
So you're going to have, you know, he doesn't realize that the federal government was an employer, that employing a lot of people, maybe more than they need to, is a feature, not a bug, because private sector capitalism cannot employ enough people in decent jobs and decent wages. We've known that since the Depression. So at any rate, you're creating you're using economic policies that are atavistic and stupid, frankly, and not even consistent. I mean, obviously you see Trump doesn't really know what he's doing. He reacts on the basis of his instincts and, you know, the last person he talked to, and tariffs are good and we got to take over Greenland and whatever. But, and he'll change his mind. He's inconsistent. So now you're in a situation in the world where the United States has demonstrated, has shown people in militarily in Ukraine, as you say, the United States and NATO poured everything. Oh, they poured a lot. Ukraine was the most powerful country in Europe. They said it. Yep. They said, the defense minister of Ukraine said, if we were fighting any other country, we'd win. But they weren't fighting any other country. And Russia had to learn itself over the past 3 years that it needed more than it had. It had to build up, and it was capable of doing that because it had a policy and it had government planning, etc. It had the legacy of the Soviet Union. So at any rate, they've demonstrated in Ukraine that they're not the power that they were militarily. Economically, I got to tell you, I've just realized this myself over the last, I'd say, year. You know, we don't see what's happened in China and the extent to which China and the BRICS, and China is a lot of the power behind the BRICS, China has just advanced so quickly and so far that Americans don't realize it. I'll tell you, there's a channel on YouTube, American businessman who's lived in China for years, called Inside China Business. He does like 10-minute videos almost every day. You watch this guy and you'll say, oh shit, we have no idea how far advanced they are over us. What we depend on, everybody depends on for them. So what are you going to do now? You're going to pick an economic fight with China. You lose. You're going to lose. You can't bully China economically. You just can't. So this is the collapse of the entire, which was crumbling in progressively and gradually, but the entire post-World War II world order, which was based on American unipolar hegemony, and militarily and economically, and that amount of power has gone. The United States is faced with equal or greater military and economic powers, and it's trying to bully them, and it's going to lose that. And it's treating its erstwhile allies, who were its lapdogs, but it's now treating them contemptuously as lapdogs. And Trump is giving up. He thinks he's so tough and so smart that he can give up the soft power angle. Soft power is real power. Ideological power is real power. That kept the empire together for 50 years, 60 years. The fact that people thought, the United States represented some kind of good, fair thing that now and certainly with Gaza. And this to me, is Israel survived. Zionism survived because people thought it was a good thing, because the culture, the American culture, pumped out, it's wonderful to have this Israeli Jewish state in the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. Now everybody has seen over the last year and a half what that actually is and what that means. What you're seeing happening in Gaza is what happened in 1948. 80% of the population was killed or expelled. Now they're doing it again. So you've had the growth of, for the first time over the last year, and I wrote about this just because it took a long time. You have the growth in the United States of an anti-Zionist movement, not just critical of this or that Israeli policy, but realizing what Zionism is colonialism, it's savagery, and it's ethno-religious exceptionalism and supremacism, and it's horrible. It exists by murder. And so that has turned, and the Americans have shown that they are totally enthralled to this. They will give it every bomb and every missile to burn children to death, to kill. This is a mass slaughter of children and doctors and journalists, waiting for doctors to get home so they can kill them and the whole family. This is horrible, and nobody can deny it. So the United States has lost its soft power anyway. It's reviled by the rest of the world now. It can't claim any content. The words democracy, international law, human rights can't come out of its mouth. So that's gone. And if it wants to rely on its military and economic power, that's not the same as it was either. So we're in a state as Americans, in one sense, good. We're not the only big dog around. We're losing the hegemony. There are other centers of power. We have a multipolar world, and they, in fact, whether anybody likes it or not, and the United States ruling elite doesn't really know what to do about it except try and get it back in some way. And everything that Trump is doing to get it back is making it worse. And it's going to make it worse. We're not isolating China. We're isolating ourselves. We're not isolating Russia. That's what happened. We thought we would win that war in Russia with sanctions from hell. That's why they thought they were going to get regime change in Russia. We'll put these sanctions from hell. The oligarchs will get rid of Putin, and look, we'll get a new Yeltsin back in. And then when that didn't work, we're going to send them all the wonder weapons. We'll send them ATACMS, and we'll send them HIMARS, and we'll send them this, and then we'll have a big offensive, and then the generals and the people of Russia will be so outraged by the losses in the war that they'll get rid of Putin, and then we'll have none of it happened. Russia is stronger. Putin is more secure. The political situation, the economic situation of Russia is better. Europe has a terrible economic situation. European and American politics are in uproar and upended. We've weakened and isolated ourselves in militarily and politically over the past 3 years with the Ukraine thing. We have now completely disgraced ourselves with the Gaza thing, and we are in the process of isolating ourselves economically and doing. Donald Trump is doing more to destroy the world capitalist order than all the leftists, myself included, over the past 30 years with his policies. And there's no coming back from this. When you say, we're going to give you we're going to change the world by imposing all these tariffs, and then 2 days later you say, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And what you're demonstrating is that you can't be believed, and we can't believe that you know what you're doing. So how do you come back from that in 2025? You really don't. So everything's gone. So it is a collapse of the American dominated world order. And it's a continuing collapse of the American economy, which the social economy of the United States is terrible. People can't afford rent. They can't have health care. They live paycheck to paycheck if they have a paycheck. And they're going after every program that helps people. So this is a fact that's been a fact for 20 years. Didn't get any better. Obama came in. We have this situation because the financial crisis of 2008 caused a crisis. People gave faith in Obama across the board. Obama came in with a huge mandate, much bigger than Trump.
Yes, he did.
Much bigger than Trump. Veto-proof majority in the Senate. We're gonna have health care. Oh no. We're gonna stop spying on you. Oh no. We're gonna stop wars. Oh, what about this and that? Got us through wars, got us through health care, sat down with the banksters and said at the beginning of his thing, I'm here to protect you from the pitchforks.
Yep.
And that's what he did. And people were thrown out of their homes. Black businesses were destroyed. Black wealth relatively decreased, and the working class was screwed, and they got nothing. And that's why what's the cause of Trumpism is that the Democratic Party came in promising things and did nothing, and said nothing fundamentally is going to change, and nothing fundamentally changed. Inequality got worse. The social situation of people got worse, etc. And the Democrats lied and lied and lied and insulted everybody, gaslit everybody about everything. So Trump came along and said, I'm bringing the pitchforks. And people believed him. And the pitchforks turns out to be his billionaire friends. And
right.
People believe they want the pitchforks. They want the pitchforks. They want the thing to be burned down. And this is a history of American billionaire populism. I forget, was Christopher Hitchens made a good point about it. Putting your faith in billionaires who come in as fake populists and say they're gonna, and they're not there for that. That's just crazy. But it's part of a deep American ideology of kind of capitalist ideology. What John Steinbeck said, American workers think they're temporarily embarrassed millionaires, or he said actually temporarily embarrassed capitalists, but it's usually temporarily. So everybody thinks, we got to get rid of this regulation, and it's Shark Tank. If the government gets off our backs, we'll all become successful entrepreneurs. I mean, this is nonsense, but it's a deep part of American ideology. It affects everybody, all the classes, all the races, and that's something. It's been hard to get over. So at any rate, but I don't see a way out of this. Certainly there's no way out of the decline of the United States nation, economically and politically and militarily in the world, but it's still the most powerful military in the world, and can and will cause a lot of damage, but it now knows it's going to get struck back. That's a problem. And but politically and economically, we got over the top of the roller coaster and it's going down.
Yeah, we have alienated. Two things. The European thing is fascinating. You're absolutely right. We have treated Europe as a vassal, but it's you know what it is? It's kind of like your boss saying, hey, can you please go and pick something up? But he's saying please, but he doesn't really have to say please. The please is a pleasantry. Basically, go pick something up. And we treat Europe in that way. Hey, these are our partners. These are the people who we're working with. When really we're pushing in a particular way. We're nudging. Our policies is effectively going to be European policy. Where Trump comes in is like, you guys are vassals. He says, Vance, to give them a browbeating. Like Vance is literally hypocritically, by the way, treating them like children as he's talking down to them. And then in another interview, Vance was like, I don't care what Europe wants. We don't care. We're taking Greenland. That's what we're going to do. Yeah. That's a pretty astonishing thing. It's like, we don't care. And from their point of view, you guys have no hard power. Russia does. China does. We have to respect them. We may not like this trade war, but we respect Xi Jinping. We respect Putin. Europe has nothing. They don't have any tech sector. They don't have any of this other stuff. So we don't really care, ultimately, what they think. And that is the way he's functioning. And even sending Witkoff over there, if you listen to Witkoff, when he was on, I think he was on Sean Hannity, Witkoff is not talking about he's talking about a deal in regards to Ukraine, but that is settled, meaning Putin has hard lines. Those lines aren't going anywhere. And so what they're talking about are this larger thing. And he's having this kind of big conversation of we're going to revitalize the relationship between the United States and Russia. And then catch becomes, okay, well, where does Europe fit in this conversation? They don't.
No way.
That's astonishing.
Absolutely.
They're effectively coming up with a new security architecture of Europe without including Europe. Like, that's the way he thinks of them. And he shows it. But in the trade war, he needs allies. And you've alienated all of these people. As you pointed out, we're taking Greenland. We don't care what Europe thinks. Canada's going to be the 51st state. Trudeau came to our office and wept openly. Europe are a bunch of vassals. We need you to not be vassal states. Like, this is the stuff that he's effectively said. Now it's, hey, we need you to work with us to go against China. And of course, Europe is like, okay, well, maybe we do want to work with China. And the UK is like, well, we're not changing our relationship with China. And China and Xi Jinping has been going all throughout the global South, making allies in order to ensure that they're not being isolated. Like, it is astonishing. One last point, ideology. I've always said there's no magical door in this case. I don't see a way out either. Like, if you listen to somebody like Jack Fresco, and he talks about this utopian world of sorts, it's not utopian, but closest you can get to it. It's like a Star Trek universe that we can do, like using technology in order to liberate mankind. And if you ask him, how do you do it? And he's blank. There's no magical door. And I think the only magical door that would be there is if the public said, enough. We're being taken advantage of. You've put $36 trillion on the debt. There's no healthcare. There's no education. There's no high-speed rail. People are constantly and persistently vulnerable. This is not the way to live. They don't think that way, though. To your point, the embarrassed millionaires thing, you would think that the public would say, well, we should have healthcare. Why not? If we believe that life matters, why wouldn't we? We should take care of our kids. They're going to grow up at some point, and that is going to be our society. So, yeah, we need to make sure that that's not the way we think. Yeah. If anything, we think it's our fault.
Yep.
And so any energy that would go into protests, any energy that would show outrage at the living situation and the condition in the U.S., and honestly, you're right about China. I mean, I saw this guy walk into a 7-Eleven, use his palm print to pay for stuff. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wow, drones delivering stuff in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And this is just typical China. I mean, even high-speed rail, and we can't even get it in the United States. Mm-hmm. You look at Russian subways, and then you look at ours, and then when Tucker Carlson kind of made the point of saying, hey, why are subways trashy like this, but theirs are great? And Stewart makes a joke of it. Like, that's the price of living in America. Maybe it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But it's in their minds. This is normal. This is the way it is. If anything happens, it's on us. It's our fault. And that ideology is so ingrained that any notion of outrage at a system is just not present, which means I have no idea how to get out of it.
Yeah. Listen, this is very, very profound what you're saying. It's very correct. You know, and this is the idea of the social is missing in a profound way. I mean, you know, socialism as a general principle. I mean, you know, what's the point of a society? What's the point of an economy? Is the main purpose of an economy to have security, you know, economic, social security and prosperity that's shared by everybody? Everybody has what's necessary for a good and decent life? Or is the main purpose of society to make sure that individuals can accumulate as much money as possible? And we have a society that's the latter. That's the purpose of our economy. Okay, to the extent that which I was just looking at Jeffrey Sachs talking about this in Hong Kong. He said, we don't have an economic policy. The government abhors, refuses to have you can't plan an economy. That's socialism. If you think of society as a whole and you orient your economic policies towards the society as a whole and the benefits to the whole of society, that's socialism. I mean, in the most general abstract sense, that's true. But you know, that's how you have to live. And that's why, you know, other countries think socially. And the people in them have an ideology that's oriented, we have to think socially. But in this country, in every way, shape, and we have an individualism that I'm not. We are more individualistic. We're going to be. That's part of our cultural. That's okay. I'm glad we have a First Amendment. Nope, that nobody else has. Now we're going to start defending that. But that's a kind of individual. So we're going to be more individualistic than a lot of other countries. But still, this is crazy. It's insane in our country that we don't have universal single payer healthcare, free at cost of at point of service. It's insane. It's disgraceful. And I ask anybody, I have no tolerance for this. If you are opposed to universal free healthcare, you have to tell me the name of the person and the child who doesn't get healthcare because they lack a dime. And if it's not your child, then sit right down, because that's what you're telling me. You're telling me healthcare has to be paid for, and if you don't have enough money for it, you don't get it. And that means your husband, your wife, your mother, your child. And if it's not them, then you're a hypocrite. and so this is because we have the resources, but this is part of the point. We do, and well, at least we have a society in which we have enormous resources. And I got to say this, and it's very important. There's no debt crisis. This is nonsense. Taxpayers do not pay for things. Federal government is not funded with taxes here or in China. China can build 10,000 miles of high-speed rail because guess what? The government has unlimited capital. They create money. They don't collect money. They create it. Our government doesn't collect money. We create it. The purpose of taxes in our society, and I can go show you in 1946, the chair of the New York Fed saying an article entitled "Taxes for Revenue are obsolete. We no longer need to use taxes for revenue. We don't need them. We don't use them. Taxes are for social purposes. They are for controlling inequality and controlling inflation. That's why you have high taxes on the rich. 94% was 1946. And he said, not because we need the money for revenue, but in order to control inequality. And what you're seeing is the reason you have everybody, it was $200,000. Over every penny over $200,000 in 1946, 44, 45, 94% of it was collected in taxes. Not because they needed the money, but because nobody should have that much wealth, because that much wealth gives you too much power.
Yes.
And that's what we're seeing with Elon Musk. We don't need Elon Musk taxes to pay for a damn thing. We're going to take his money because he got too much of it. If you have inflationary problems, if you have inequality problems, you take the money with taxes because you have the power to create the money and the power to take the money. That's the deal of the fiat monetary system we work in. And it's a social deal. Money is social. It's a social tool for facilitating the production and distribution of resources and of goods throughout the economy. It's not an individual achievement. Oh, you didn't make any money. You got some money from people that was put into the economy by the federal government. And the federal government has the right to decide, oh, wait a minute, we don't want people hoarding all that money. It's like oil in an engine. We don't want people, you can't have that. We need the engine to run smoothly. And to do that, you can't have all that money. That's what you're doing. So we have to get out of this notion that we're beggars for taxpayers. Because if taxpayers pay for this is part of the ideology of capitalism and individualism. If taxes pay for the government, then people who pay a lot of taxes have a right to come in and say, hey, wait a minute, we pay for more than you do. That's not the way it works. Unless you get out of that, you're going to be stuck in that. And they're going to tell you every minute, oh, look, you'll never raise enough taxes to pay for these things. And they're right. And it doesn't make any difference because taxes don't pay for them. And the debt is another story, but the government debt is not like private debt. The problem is private debt. The problem isn't the government, which creates money, has taken some of the money it's already created and put it in a savings account that they'll pay interest on. The problem is that the government doesn't put enough money in the hands of people, so they have to go to the private banks and get that money on credit cards, which they have to repay with interest. That's what kills an economy. So you're getting this situation now where Musk is going around firing everybody. The government is raising all the prices because they're trying to, and it's a good idea to take manufacturing back, but you need a policy. You need an industrial policy. You need massive public investment in things. You need a policy over years. You need economic planning that doesn't sit around and wait for some startup capitalist to say, well, I'll figure out some cool new way of building this. The government, the public, the social entity, the polity, gets together and says, uses the tools, the expertise, uses the technology, and uses the capital, that's an infinite amount of capital that the government can have, and you can bring private, China has private capital, they have capitalist enterprises, but they are subordinate to the social purpose. And that's what we need. So, but this requires an education. And the state of American political consciousness is terrible because it's formed by Fox News and MSNBC, and when you have those are the real political educators of the country, the mainstream media, and that's changing now. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But this is what we need. As you say, there's no secret. So you need a politically educated populace and a politically active populace to say, we are not going to put up with this. We are going to take control. We have so much, even if there was a politically active, the problem of a third party in this country, it's virtually impossible to create a third party, an effective third party movement. That's the law. Those are laws and those are policies and economic, the ability to buy elections and the inability to get your names on the ballot and no ranked choice voting. There's all kinds of things that have to happen in order to make it even possible within electoral politics to succeed. And I've for years been saying the only reasonable thing to do in the electoral system is not vote, because it's a fraud. And you it's like sitting at a poker table where you don't know who's counting the chips, and you know that these other guys have all this money they're throwing in, you have no idea. So that doesn't mean you value your vote. That doesn't mean you don't value your money if you sit at that table. You're wasting your money. And so we have to have there's a whole set of things that have to be done, but they have to be done pretty damn quickly now. The next 4 years is going to be a collapse and as I say, a kind of structural destruction of the American economy and the polity that you have to fight. And I don't know. I'm not hopeful about the tools for us to do that fighting are there.
Yeah, the contradictions are mechanical, and you have a system that allows people to get ungodly amounts of wealth. Elon Musk is going to be like a trillionaire, in the next several years. Mm-hmm. And with that money, you can put unlimited amounts in the political system. Yeah. The side with the most money wins 90% of the time. So I don't even need to know their vote. I just need to know how much money that they got, and 90% of the time, they're most likely going to win. Okay, well, how's that a fair political system, right? Like the little guy that doesn't really have much cash. Sanders was able to raise a huge amount of money from the population, fair enough. But let's be honest, the godly amounts of money that can just drop into the political system for a particular candidate. Israel dropped $100 million into the political system. They gave Trump $100 million. Okay, what do you do for the money? When Kamala Harris raises $1.5 billion, what do you do for the money? Same thing with Clinton. What do you do for the money? And you need to point about Obama, where he puts Citigroup all throughout his campaign right off the bat, even though he's like, Occupy Wall Street, we're fighting the 1%, as he puts the 1% entirely into his political thing. That it doesn't feel like there's a way out. It doesn't feel like there's a solution in a political sense to the problems or to the issues. Even now, where you would think, okay, well, Trump is imploding. And so what are the Democrats doing? And their response is, well, we should sit back, not do anything, and just let him implode. So it's like, okay, so you don't need to be anything else. You just need to stand there with the idea that people will come back. And that reeks of a certain desperation in the population when they are flailing. And when somebody like Trump gets to the presidency, you have to ask, okay, what the hell just happened? Like, that's not normal in a typical political system where you find somebody who is deeply incompetent, who tried to literally overthrow the government the last time he was in office. And yet they find the other party so inept that they put him back in office. And you look at that, you're like, we're screwed. The public has no way out. And they're looking for a way out. That, like, I think in their mind, well, at least he'll do okay with the economy. And not so much. Well, at least he won't start wars. Okay, well, not
Exactly.
like maybe there's a way out. I'm putting asterisks on that just because Witkoff is interesting choice. Trump has sidelined the entire State Department for his own guy, and you have to ask, okay, why that guy? Like, why is he sidelining Rubio, Walsh, all of these other people that would typically be doing the job of state? Witkoff has gone to Israel. He's gone to Oman. He's gone to Russia. He's talked to Putin like 3 times. He's gone to the secondary talks. He is now going to Paris to have conversations about the Ukraine war to Europe. Okay, well, you're using this guy for everything in regards to your foreign policy, meaning you have no trust in the other people to not subvert whatever you're trying to accomplish. So, yes, there's the murders that are taking place in Yemen when he's murdering civilians. But, that piece in New York Times about Iran, he was at least cognizant. All right, this could set the world on fire. Maybe we should find a diplomatic solution to this. I'm sending Witkoff, my guy, not one of these lunatic Zionist wackos that I've effectively employed in my administration. So I'm putting asterisks on that just because there could be a path out. But by the same token, he could make it radically worse because he will bomb Iran. I know some people think that's a bluff. It's not a bluff. He has boxed himself into somewhat of a corner of, if you can't get a deal, I'm going to attack. Okay, well, nobody takes you seriously if you don't follow through with their threats. And I don't get the sense that Trump has this moral girth that wouldn't stop him from doing it. So fair enough, is what it is. Last thing I want to hit you with, the Yemen. Yemen is a fascinating thing. You get Pam Bondi coming out saying, well, we've done all of these bombings and we have now, decimated the Houthis, Ansar Allah, and we have damaged their capacity to do so and so. And then, like the same day, they're firing into the Red Sea and at Israel. And they have done like 20, if not more, bombing missions. And one of their quislings, Saudi Arabia, has sought firing also. And some of the reporting is effectively that Donald Trump wants to initiate a civil war in Yemen in order to deal with the issue of the Houthis, because his radical bombing campaign didn't do the job. He was just out there murdering civilians. Give me your take on that. I saw one of the videos that you effectively covered this, and you were talking about this on. We have a few minutes left, so I definitely want to get your take on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, all praise to the Houthis. The Houthis and Ansar Allah. I mean, they're the only government that's intervening militarily to try and stop the genocide, to try and get humanitarian aid in. They are doing what is their responsibility under international law to stop the genocide. Nations don't have a responsibility to proactively act in order to stop it. And the genocide that we are committing along with the Israelis. So the Houthis are doing the right thing. And they are demonstrating that if you do act militarily against this, you're going to get hit back. They're going to hit you back. Okay. So that's what the United States is doing. Now, again, the United States has an enormous amount of power, but can they stop the Ansar Allah from attacking Israel and from attacking the ships in the Red Sea? Probably not. But I hate to see this, because they're going to pull out. Now they're pulling out. Saudi Arabia, and I saw yesterday the Emiratis are, we're going to send militias to fight the Houthis too, because that war went on in Yemen for a long time, and we supported it. It was a very nasty war. So they can bog down the Ansar Allah government, and they can impose costs on them that will be very hard. And I don't know how that's going to work out. I'm just, I give honor to the Houthis for what they're doing in trying to do something. Gaza is finished. The people of Gaza will be, a year from now, either there'll be no Palestinians in Gaza. 2 years from now, there'll be no Palestinians in Gaza. Unless someone comes in with military force and imposes a defeat on Israel and the United States, that's very difficult. And I don't know who's going to do it.
Nobody is.
At the end of the day,
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just pointing. Nobody is.
Nobody.
Those Arab governments,
even Iran, they may be on the outside, but anybody who would come in with enough military force, even just to make sure Gazans can stay there and get humanitarian aid, the Israelis will resist it. And if anybody comes in with enough effective military force, the Israelis will do everything, including nuke them. Israeli nuclear weapons are not there to nuke the Palestinians. They're there to nuke any country that comes in with enough military force to restrain Israel, including Iran, first of all. Okay, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I'm sorry to say, no country is going to risk getting nuked in order to save the Palestinians. And that's the situation the Israelis have created. They've said, if you come in to save the Palestinians, we will nuke you. So now, I don't know what's going to happen to the Yemenis. They're going to fight as much as they can. They seem to be absolutely committed, and good for them. They're the only country in the world that is doing this. The other aspect of it, which you mentioned with Iran, again, Israel's been trying to get the United States for at least 15 years to attack Iran. And yes, under the first Trump administration, I wrote about this. They set up an Iran mission center in the CIA, which was essentially a war planning group. And but of course, it's not about nuclear weapons. They had a nuclear weapons. It's about the missiles and the support of resistance groups around the region. And the missile thing is a cover for, you have to surrender to Israel. You have to give up your warfighting capability, your missiles, so that you can never damage Israel. And you have to give up your support, military and political support for the Palestinian resistance. That's what they want from Iran. They're probably not going to get it. Now, Trump is a weird guy, as he's capable of doing good things. Okay. And, he's getting us. I think he may be getting us out of the war in Ukraine, which would be a good thing. I don't think he hasn't done it yet. He hasn't decided fully. But as you say, I think Trump has certain instincts. They're not really policies, but he doesn't really want to get into a big war. He doesn't really want to get into it. He doesn't want to go to war with Iran. Look, in his first administration, Trump ordered an attack on Iran after they took down the Reaper drone. And with 10 minutes to go, he recalled it. He rescinded the order. That was an amazing thing. People forget about this. The Democrats don't want to talk about it because he rescinded the order. The Republicans don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. But that was I would say, one of the most courageous anti-war things that's been done since JFK didn't refused air power at the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
No, Joe Biden would not have rescinded an order to attack Iran that he gave 10. And he apparently did that because he watched Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson changed his mind. So Donald Trump literally goes with whoever talks to him, and his friend. Witkoff is his friend and his pal. So he's going to talk to Witkoff. So you don't know what he's going to do next. I think he has a little bit of an instinct. I don't really want to go to war, but as you say, there's this apparatus that's there, and it's going to be very hard because look, if you get out of that, if you leave Ukraine, if Witkoff accepts the Russian deal with the Russian terms, it's a defeat.
Yes.
It's undeniable defeat for the United States and NATO, and a victory for Russia, period. Russia keeps the four oblasts and Crimea, they've won, period. So the same thing with Iran, so I'm not sure. I wouldn't, chances are no more than 50-50 than Trump will do what would be politically smart for him, which is, this was Joe Biden's war, I'm out of it.
And he's saying that, by the way. He's like, this is Biden's war. This is Biden's war. He was like, people keep coming at me. This is Biden's war. I've only been here for a few months.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he's saying, I'm making it mine by putting this deal, and you've got to take this deal or else you're insulting me. So it's tough. And the same thing with Iran. Apparently that today I saw that article that he told the Israelis, no, we're not going to bomb Iran for now.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to go. And the Israelis don't want to do this alone. They really can't do it alone. But that's going to come back. It's not over. The Israelis are not giving up on that. The power of the Israeli lobby in the United States is immense. And I would say, again, it's no more than 50-50 chance at best that Iran won't be attacked by Israel in the United States. I think it's 60-40 that they will at some point.
I agree with you. Yeah, because Iran has already said our red lines is we are not giving up nuclear investigation, meaning we are keeping some of the nuclear, maybe not 60%, maybe 3%. We might agree to that, but this is staying.
Yeah.
And Witkoff initially was saying something very similar, as if he understood, okay, these are Iran's red lines. We're just going to have to deal with these red lines. Then later he comes back and contradicts himself, and it's like, everything must go. Like a day later, apparently when he was getting pressure because people said Donald Trump has accepted defeat by Iran.
Yeah. Look, so Trump can't stop that. They're going to say, you're giving up. You were defeated. You've surrendered. And the Republicans will say it, and they'll be right.
And hence the way the language compels behavior. Like, that's what I mean. Personally, I think Trump is boxed in on this. And he is gambling on this notion of, I need to get a deal. Like, and I even would go so far as to say all of these threats of we're going to bomb it is desperation. Like, I don't want to do this. I need to get this deal. I need to get this deal. We'll see. I mean, I don't know what is in his mind, but the fact that he's using Witkoff, who's a realist, as opposed to an ideologue like Rubio or Hegseth, who's lunatic, right? like you don't want these guys having negotiations with people. And he sidelined all of them. He's using one guy. It's like, I trust one guy. That's all. I've never seen that.
I know it's a very strange phenomenon. He's putting a lot of his
eggs in one basket
in Witkoff's basket. But it's a strange. But it's Witkoff, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, he's an amateur. That's not a bad thing, but it has weaknesses too. And I think Trump, in even a more personal way, really thinks that he can cajole people into making the deal that he wants. He really thinks things are decided on the basis of how much money you're going to make on this. I mean, really, look what he's doing with Ukraine. I mean, we'll make this mineral deal and we'll become rich. We're going to charge them for what we already gave them. And this is like, he thinks that all the countries in the world think this way. Oh, we'll make a deal. Look, I'll make you rich with this. And people have interests. They have existential interests that aren't, there's no price. Right. And he doesn't quite get that. And he thinks he can kind of persuade them to come along to his. And if they don't, then he gets personally pissed off about it because
like you offended me personally because you fall in line with what I'm trying to get accomplished. It is a weird dynamic. I hope we'll see. Witkoff is saying some pretty heavy things in Ukraine, like in regards to the relationship between Russia and the U.S. and this kind of $1 trillion of economic entanglement that creates peace in the region. That is astonishing if you can pull that off, right? So we'll see if he's able to pull that off. Thank you for this, Jim.
Okay,
I really do appreciate it, and I think the audience really do appreciate it too. We haven't talked in a very long time.
Yeah, it's been
and so I am ecstatic to reconnect this relationship. And I really do hope you'd be willing to come back on despite all of the chaos that happened.
We get the timing right. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for this. And just so that people know, Jim Kavanaugh, he's a leftist socialist writer whose analysis and work can be found on, Substack at this point. What's the name of is it just Jim Kavanaugh?
Jim Kavanaugh Substack. Jim Kavanaugh's Substack, yeah.
Check him out. He has a lot of good videos over there. He has a lot of good writing over there. Definitely check out Collapse. I think it is fantastic. I went through it yesterday and I was like, oh, this is great. We have to talk about this. Like initially it was going to be Yemen. I was like, we have to talk about this. This is great.
All right, good.
Thank you for this, man. I really do appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
You have a good one. Be safe, okay?
Thank you.
All right, guys. I am going to end this. I have another interview coming up with Maloof. That is going to be on the Iran issue.